What's good, everybody? It's your boy D Nice with I2G Radio and the Viva Las Raiders podcast. Back at it with our Chiefs Raiders preview. Before we get started, though, urge everyone to like, comment, and subscribe to I2G Radio. That's the letter I, the number 2, the letter G Radio. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also check out the Viva Las Raiders podcast on YouTube. That's Viva Las Raiders podcast. Let's get right into it. 2-4 Raiders at the 3-3 Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. Chiefs Raiders rivalry week. As always, I always have anytime the Raiders play the Chiefs circled on the calendar because, let's be honest, for the last decade, the AFC West has been owned by the Kansas City Chiefs. So anytime that the Raiders, can get a dub, which is very rare over the last, I would say, basically 20 years with the Chiefs, more like 15. It's only been a handful of times. I've always considered that kind of a gauge as to where the Raiders are at in the season. Last time they did that, a couple years ago, Christmas Day in Arrowhead, they did beat the Chiefs. That was the year the Chiefs then went undefeated the rest of the year and won the Super Bowl here in Allegiant Stadium. But let's get right into it. As always, with our previews, we're going to talk keys to victory for the Raiders on the offensive side of the ball, keys to victory for the Raiders on the defensive side of the ball. So let's get it first with the offense. First and foremost, paramount, keep Geno Smith upright. This offensive line has had a lot of shifts. Stone Forsythe now, 2 games, has been the left tackle. He's had some rough patches, but it has held up decent at best. Dylan Parham still having a few issues there at left guard, but I thought he had some real key blocks, especially in the touchdown run by Ashton Jeanty against the Titans. Jordan Meredith is getting pushed around a lot. Jackson Powers Johnson is looking all as advertised, even at right guard, and DJ Glaze has been consistent pretty much throughout the season. Had one bad game, but this offensive line has really got to come together and really be a cohesive unit here against the Chiefs. Chris Jones has been a Raiders game record since he came into the league. And I don't think that's going to change too much unless, you don't want to. The problem with double teaming against Chris Jones is going to allow someone else to be one-on-one or give more opportunities even for linebackers like Nick Bolton to blitz. It's just going to put the Raiders in this bad predicament. So you kind of have to pick your poison on how you're going to block and guard against this Chiefs defense. The defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, Spagnuolo, he blitzes almost more than any other team in the NFL, and they're going to test this offensive line on every single down. They've got to find a way to keep Geno upright, even if they sometimes 13 personnel to add an additional tight end. They may have to play almost exclusively or consistently out of that unless it's clear passing downs to get max protection, even if you have to throw a fullback in there. I've heard people suggest and say, and I wouldn't be opposed to or angry about it, put like a Laki Tassi or someone back there as your fullback. Baltimore does it, Chargers do it, where they've got a 300 plus pound lineman that is their fullback. So I wouldn't be surprised with that. Ashton Jeanty has got to have run lanes, and Geno Smith has got to have clear passing ways to get to the wide receivers here in this game, which leads to my second key to victory on offense for the Raiders. This needs to be a big game from Ashton Jeanty. He's right on schedule, like I said in the post game. 105 carries. He's fourth in the NFL in carries. He's 8th in yards, 424 yards. Top 20 in touchdowns. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns. He's about 4.0 yards per carry so far, but he's going to have a big game. The number that I'm kind of targeting him at as far as rushing yards, it needs to be 125 at least. Zamir White had a huge game. I think he had 145 yards rushing Christmas Day against the Chiefs. The blueprint has always been there for the Raiders on how to beat the Chiefs. Turnovers, you have to the turnover battle has got to be on your side, which we'll get a little bit further into that. But the main point of that's going to be a point of emphasis for the Raiders is running the football, and it has to be ball control, keeping the Chiefs and keeping Patrick Mahomes' offense off of the field, and being able to execute and have long sustaining drives like they had against the Titans in the second half. Being able to kind of keep that defense off their toes. If that offense line can hold up, then they can run play action and get a lot of get their receivers going, like Jack Besh or like Trey Tucker. Not sure if Jacoby Myers is going to play in this game. There was a report that came out that Raiders are looking to trade him, which tells me they probably have some trade suitors now at this point of the season, as about 2 weeks out from the trade deadline. I spoke about this earlier in the season. I would love for the Raiders to keep Jacoby Myers, but, the writing kind of was on the wall with how many wide receivers that they drafted. So this will kind of give more of a natural Besh, Tucker, and even Dante Thornton there now as your top 3 wide receivers. And then once you get Brock Bowers back, then that kind of gives you a glimpse as to what the future looks like as far as the Raiders on offense with their wide receivers and tight ends. Michael Mayer is also going to be big in this game for short yardage. I think him and Besh, especially in the shorter intermediate passes, you still need to have that deep threat in Tucker and Thornton just to keep that defense honest, because if not, they're going to pull those safeties sometimes pull those safeties down, and then that's going to add additionally to the blitz. So run game is going to be essential. Third, obviously, turnovers are big. If the Raiders have anything more than two more than one, actually, they're going to have a hard time keeping up with Kansas City. More 7s than 3s. You got to get. I've always said when you're playing the Chiefs, your goal as far as points is 28. 28 gives you a shot. Not saying it makes you guarantees you a victory, but the Chiefs at any point can put up 30, 40 points, and they can put them up in a hurry, especially if you're turning the ball over. So the Raiders have to have ball control. Time of possession has got to be paramount for them moving forward against the Chiefs. Keep Mahomes off of the field as much as you possibly can. But if you have long 6-7 minute drives, you've got to come away with 7 points. 3 points is just not going to cut it. You can do a 7-minute drive, and Mahomes can score in 30 seconds, can throw a bomb for a touchdown. So it's always an explosive offense, no matter who's there on offense as far as wide receiver or anything like that. Raiders have got to be on point on offense and really give their defense a chance to kind of pin their ears back and to shine, to try and get some turnovers or at least some stops on that Chiefs offense. We're going to get into the defensive side now, but first wanted to shout out and talk about a partner in this podcast and in this hip-hop game, Two Kings Marketing. And with Two Kings Marketing, finding reliable music promotion is hard work. That's why you should rely on twokings.online for your music promotion needs. They've worked with people from the West Coast on Hobson to New York's Shine Poe. Their services include, but not limited to, social media management, graphic design, press write-ups, social media design, website design, publicity, artist development, artist management, major label contract negotiations, album inlay design, independent music distribution, album marketing, producer placements, SMS blasts, advertisement placements, radio promotions. Check them out today at 2kings, that's the number 2, kings with an s.online for a consultation, or email them at ceo@2kings.online for a one-on-one session as to what they can do for you. And it doesn't have to be just for, they more specify or specialize with artists, but other businesses that are looking to just get publicity or promotion out there. Give 2 Kings Marketing a try. Hit up T on 2 Kings, the CEO at 2kings.online, and get your free consultation and quote for your business needs. All right, let's get onto the defensive side of the ball here for the Raiders. 3 keys to victory. First and foremost, pressure Mahomes within the pocket. The last couple years, really due to injuries and just who they've had kind of in the backfield, the Chiefs have not gotten prime rushing production from a lot of the players that they've had. Isaiah Pacheco has been banged up quite a bit the last couple of years. Kareem Hunt has been a solid number 2. He'll have a few games here and there where he'll kind of bust out and he'll have a big rushing game. But for the most part, the Chiefs have not gotten premium production from their running backs, which is kind of almost made it a premium that Patrick Mahomes is scrambling more. And I would say this year more than any other year with Patrick Mahomes, he is looking to run the football. He has already almost 250 yards rushing on the ground. And this game is going to be no different. So with the rush lanes, with the defense, that defensive line, they've got to be able to contain and keep Mahomes in the pocket, but collapse it at the same time. Don't leave angles for him to run in between the tackles, especially if he's rolling out, to the point that your linebackers and your safeties are back in coverage, and these are leaving 20, 30-yard run lanes for Patrick Mahomes to, pick up first downs and to really extend drives. So it's going to be paramount. Malcolm Kuntz, Max Crosby, keeping him contained. Tyree Wilson on the inside. Thomas Booker also collapsing that pocket from the inside. And once they get in and hone in on Mahomes, they've got to bring him down. Broken tackles, allowing him to the outside is going to be disaster for the Raiders in this defensive line. Second of all, number 2, I think Malcolm Kuntz is kind of the X factor in this game. Many Raider fans remember that Christmas Day game in Arrowhead. Raiders won 20-14. Malcolm Kuntz was an absolute animal in that game. 2.5 sacks. He had a strip sack. Was all over the place and was completely just manhandling the left tackle at the time there for the Chiefs. Chiefs have kind of had a revolving door, have had injuries, and have also had a lot of false start penalties from their starting left tackle. Made a switch to rookie. This is going to be a must-see matchup. Malcolm Kuntz has had a down year so far, has only had 1 sack. He's gotten a little bit better, has been a little bit more explosive, and has shown that quick first step. He's coming off that ACL tear, so now he's a full year and some change now removed from that. This needs to be a breakout game from Malcolm Kuntz. When Malcolm Kuntz is playing at or near a similar level as Max Crosby, it completely transforms and elevates his defense. You get more. Kuntz is one of those guys, when he tackles you or he hits you, he's going for strip sacks. He's going to cause turnovers. He's got to help out Max Crosby. That defensive line had their best game of the season last week against the Titans, 5 sacks. They need a repeat performance like that also here against the Chiefs. And I said again, the 3 Musketeers, Tyree Wilson, Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz. But now Thomas Booker is starting to emerge more and is able to get pressures. Doesn't have a sack yet, but did recover a fumble last week. Tyree Wilson recovered a fumble last week. He was very active in the game. Need those guys to continue. Jonah Lalulu also got another sack, so I think he's now up to 5 sacks on the season. Completely has been a welcomed surprise on that defensive line with his production so far. Going to need that as well. It's going to be, again, like I said, the offensive line a collaborative effort, the defensive line collaborative effort as well for the Raiders to get this W against the Chiefs. Linebackers, they're going to have to kind of pick and choose. This is another key to victory. Pick and choose there. When to blitz, when to for coverage. It's really going to be paramount with that. Don't have Devin White in too many situations that he needs to cover, because they've with Gray and Travis Kelce, great tight ends for the Kansas City Chiefs. And as always, Kelce always has monster games against the Raiders. Whether he's 25 years old or he's 105 years old, he's just going to have great games against the Raiders, and always has. People said he's lost a step. I won't believe it until he's in Canton and he retires, and he's because he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Fame tight end when he retires. If he's out there, he's at any point able to make plays, because him and Mahomes it's a unspoken chemistry, and they run backyard routes. He'll look like he's not going to run a route. He's just going to block. He's a decoy, and next thing you know, he's 10, 15 yards down the field, and your entire defense is trying to chase him down. So always, at all times, they need to know where Travis Kelce is at, especially when Mahomes is scrambling or is outside of the pocket. Third point, secondary. Secondary has got to play out of their mind in this game, as they did. The blueprint is there. 2020 COVID year, Raiders won against the Chiefs. 2022, Raiders win against the Chiefs, or 2023, excuse me. Very similar games. Good defense, pressure on Mahomes. You want to pressure Mahomes with 4-7 in coverage. If they can consistently get pressure with that D-line without having to blitz a linebacker or even blitz a nickel corner or anything like that to expose someone out there to be open, these are the keys to victory on defense. But Caillou Blue Kelly has got to have a better game. Eric Stokes need to continue to build so far in his solid first half as far as coverage. On the back end, Isaiah Pola-Mao, he's been getting picked on a lot, especially in the red zone. He's got to play better and tighter coverage. Jeremy Chin as well has got to play well. Again, it's got to be a complete collaborative effort. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, they're going to be running crossing patterns, slants, all types of stuff. And these guys are really good with yards after the catch, and they're speed demons. Rashee Rice is eligible to come back. I'm not sure if he's been practicing with the team, but, he's kind of been more of that possession receiver. But now you've got Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster, you've got Xavier Worthy, and you've got Hollywood Brown. They go 4 wide and just tell Mahomes, hey, pick and choose who's open. Improvise, do whatever you want. Raiders have got to be on their P's and Q's. It's got to be a complete team effort for this team to win. Special teams here, also honorable mention. Block kicks, got to mitigate that. Looks like it's gotten a lot better in the second game now that Michael Mayer is back. They definitely missed him in that Chicago Bears game after he had the concussion against the Commanders. So hopefully that tightens up. They're able to keep that. Alex Bachman, Dylan Lobby, continue to play well, get those 25, 30-yard kickoff and punt returns, put the Raiders on the plus side of the ball every time when there are punts and kickoff returns. Daniel Carlson continued to be consistent. Last game in Kansas City, he missed 3 field goals. All of them were from 55 plus yards. Didn't have a chance to get the game winner because of the fumble snap that we all remember as Raider fans. That game, that was a gut-wrenching game to lose, even though, they only won 4 games last year. But that was the game that they were in all the way to the end. They've got to play the Chiefs close again, mitigate turnovers, and really, when they have a chance, they have got to get that ball in the end zone and get 6. Raiders have got to get stops on defense, be able to cause turnovers, interceptions, force fumbles, get multiple sacks on Patrick Mahomes, get him rattled, though he's, Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day. You've just got to continuously keep pressure on Mahomes. Same thing with the Eagles in the Super Bowl win that they had against Kansas City. Same thing with Tampa Bay. There have been a few teams that have been able to have the blueprint to beat the Chiefs, but very few have been able to actually execute it. As far as prediction, would I be surprised if the Chiefs absolutely destroyed the Raiders in this game? No, I don't think anyone would. Most people have it with the Chiefs winning this game against the Raiders and by at least 10 plus points. But these keys of victory are the only way that the Raiders have a chance at winning this game. They very well could go 2-5 into the bye week. A lot of people would say, the season's over at this point, speculating what they would do. I'm really kind of looking forward to the bye week and then going into Jacksonville. They would have Brock Bowers back on offense. I don't expect him to play in this game. He needs to have as much rest as possible. And if he doesn't play in this game and then he goes into the bye week, he's going to go with an additional almost 3 weeks of rest going into Jacksonville, the game here. So is it possible without Bowers? It is. It's going to be extremely tough on the offense. The offense looks a lot better. Getting some key guys back, Michael Mayer is big, but it's got to be a collaborative effort from the Raiders. And even if they have that, that might not be enough. But point being, and this goes for the Chargers, this goes for the Broncos in the division, the Chiefs again have won the AFC West 10 years in a row. Something's got to give. And that's why I said every game against the Chiefs is important within the division. Everyone kind of wrote them off and had them for dead when they were 1-3. They've won back-to-back games now. They're 3-3. If they beat the Raiders on Sunday, they'll be 4-3. And they can easily, by the end of this week, minus the tiebreaker because the Chargers beat them week 1, can be at a 3-way tie for first place. And we're not even to the bye yet. We're at almost the halfway point of the season, but they'd be right there. So everyone 2-3 weeks ago wanted to talk about the Chiefs' demise. It disappears at this point. A loss for the Chiefs puts them at 3-4, puts the Raiders also at 3-4, and now they own the tiebreaker. And you can now see the flip side of that. It doesn't mean that the Chiefs are dead. It doesn't mean that the Raiders are going to go to the Super Bowl or go to the playoffs at that point. But you'd rather have that victory. And I've always said on many occasions when it is at the end of the year, maybe there's something to play for, maybe there isn't. The Raiders have to beat the Chiefs in Allegiant Stadium. They have not beat the Chiefs since they built that stadium down the street on the Strip. From just a mental standpoint with that, because you never know if the Raiders make the playoffs and the Chiefs make the playoffs. They've got to play a wild card game or play in the first round. Say if they've got to play in Allegiant Stadium, Chiefs have no fear. They've won a Super Bowl there before. They've beaten the Raiders every time they've played them in the regular season. So a lot on stake here with this game from a mental standpoint and just kind of a swagger. Raiders got to get their swagger back, and they've got to play a complete game. They played a great game last week. Everyone says, well, it's against the Titans. You You have to beat the teams that are in front of you. And that's what the Raiders did, regardless if you think that the Titans are the worst team in the league or not. On the flip side, if they would have lost that, everyone said how terrible the Raiders are. So this is a nut check game for the Raiders against the Chiefs. But I think they can follow those keys of victory. I think at the very least they'll find themselves in the game and just need to execute, some big plays down the stretch to try and get that W. Again, I2G Radio, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, letter I, number 2, letter G, radio, as well as on YouTube, Viva Las Raiders podcast. I will be doing another pod probably either tomorrow or Friday, talking about Penn State quarterback Drew Allar and possibilities, should the Raiders still try and draft their franchise quarterback in the draft, and should it be Drew Allar even with the injury that he had. But we'll get further in depth with that later on. D-Nice, I2G Radio sign off. It's Chiefs Raiders rivalry week. Let's see if the Raiders can go out there on Sunday and get that dub. Peace.